Okay, guys, I said I would do someone asked me to review this guy's channel, Concrete Guy. So, right off the bat, he's a small channel, so you guys can subscribe if you want. I think they do pretty outstanding work. All right, that's my compliment. Of course, I'm going to have some critiques on some things. All right, but pretty outstanding work. Now, let's go. This is him doing a stamped concrete job. Mostly it's him and his wife set up. And then they use a fiberglass reinforcement on chairs. They wire tie each intersection, no skipping like a lot of contractors do. He used something called a rattlestick. I did buy one off of someone. Made a version of it, made a couple of versions of it myself. We'll talk about that in just a moment. But this is his patio he set up, and there's a reinforcement. Interesting, the fiberglass, you can go wild with it right up to the edge without worrying about cover as much. His fiberglass does go up to the edge without much cover. Normally you'd worry about swelling in steel. He can also use an accelerant using fiberglass as it's non-reactive to the, not as reactive, everything reacts to something, to the rebar, regular steel rebar. This is fiberglass. The trafficking on this is just human trafficking, as I always like to tease, you know that. He used a form that I use, a flex form also, so that's nice. I think he hired a pump company in this case to help him pump. This is a solid integral color that he's installing over a existing hard base ground that he added stone to. Okay. So let's hear the narrative, and I'll add.
Place, and it stayed right where we wanted in the concrete.
That's the rebar he's talking about, the reinforcement. This is the rattlestick right here, and it's just a little eccentric, rotating on a small motor. Weight and just spins around, and whatever's on, it carries a vibration down here. Slower you go, the more vibration you get, right? The more overlap of the vibration. So what he's doing, as you can see, is concrete. He pours pretty thick, which is pretty dry, which is it's typically normally very, very nice. In this case, you need the paste to come up. I think he calls it something else. He calls it butter. You need the paste to come up, concrete paste, so you can stamp it, but not too much, just enough where your stone doesn't show as much, as frequently. So now, these guys are, you can see, screeding away. And he's going the opposite way of his screeding, which you should do. What you should do the opposite way. So which is, so here's a screed board going this direction. So I said I would critique a bit, right? But that's also the way his tooling is going. To cover any the resets of the screed board, going the other direction would be this direction would be the recommended direction. It's opposite of these lines, okay? And then, if you're going to do another pass, the other pass goes this way. And so he doesn't fall into the dips of the screed guys. These guys are pretty darn good. I've looked here, it's pretty flat. It looks like a screed rail or something like they made there, but they're pretty good. They're pretty flat work. Flat looking work. All right, so there's, they pour thick. They pour thick. They place it thick. Now he camps, and he uses a jack camper, as it's known, something jack camper. They're doing the edges out there to the right, and then they'll turn the screed board and come back towards us. So doing that, now it's kind of hard to get the screed, let you get up on the hill to the right. That's now when you would turn and go that way with your bull float.
Even though our usual pour time is 7 in the morning, we had to reschedule this one for 4 in the afternoon.
So let's back up a little bit. I'll say what I mean. Right up in just a moment.
Even though our usual pour time is 7 in the morning,
So this is what I mean by the screed resets. So you can see here, screed reset, screed reset, screed reset, screed reset, screed reset. It's see where you push down, they get the level and they push over. Him being a heavier guy is probably leaning on it more, getting a little more depth there, so it might even look like, you know, a higher, more or higher down here or deeper cut inside your motor over here. Unless they get in tune with each other. They are not, these two guys are not in tune with each other. As you can see, he's already lifted up a significant amount, and he's still touching down. So these two are not two screeders that work well with each other. I don't know, you know, who to blame there, but I would argue that the fat guy can't, you know, maintain. They need somebody a little more, you know, two more healthier guys there. I've seen the fat guy a couple times here now, and this is you know, this is part of the problem. Now, screeding, you would go this direction now. This would overlap. This would smooth out these lines, bull floating rather. Now going this direction. So not this direction, because you'll just go up and down like a heartbeat. You're just going to create the waves again. All right, again, this is a complimentary video. I really like his mix. He uses a 4000. He uses a thick, which is being pumped right now. I don't know what his mix is being pumped, but that pump is doing great. 4000 fiber. All right, I love that. He covers his walls. All right, so very professional. He only has like 1.5. Oh, incidentally, you can cut your weight too. All right, that's the guy, my man there. Cut your weight also. Come on, you want to stay healthy. You want to stay healthy. So this means, you know, cutting those sandwiches out, changing your eating habits. This is not, you got to go long game, not short game. Okay.
had to reschedule this one for 4 in the afternoon. You either do it
so
early
now,
in the morning or late in the
you
afternoon.
see what he did there? He got that one correctly. He came up here with he was bull floating from this side, which is correct, because remember they screeded this direction. They had an edge here, and then they made an edge here, and then they turned the boards and they came this direction. And then they turned, and now here's the edge over here, and an edge here, and then they're coming this direction. And then he should bull float going this direction. He did it correctly here. Okay.
So that heat of the middle of the day doesn't hit it, but it ended up working out. We had great weather till about...
There he's doing it correctly. He's going the opposite direction. So remember the waves were this way? At this point, he's going this direction, which nails it. But let's go.
45 minutes after it was done, we had to cover it. It rained a little, and then we uncovered it. And then we had about great weather till about the next day, around 3 or 4 o'clock.
Which is good.
So you can see here our guy doing the bull flow with that rattlestick.
Listen what he said.
I really wanted to see how it would perform in a job where we were going to stamp, especially a large one. And I was pleasantly surprised that it did a great job. I mean, a phenomenal job pushing all that aggregate down, getting the butter up. So it allowed our guys to fly through that finish. And
okay. The other one, I see you, they're measuring their lengths. Pre-measure your stakes and use a string line, not chalk line. And have your stakes ready to go where you already know where you're going to put your cuts. And pull the string and then pop the string. It's just a non-chalk line string. So already have them laid out, you know, where your pins are. You can mark your pins, which one you're going to be. You can mark your rails even if you want. And have it laid out. And that way you already see visually what it looks like. I see the way you do your style sometimes. It's your style. It's okay. Again, 4,000 PSI. You get an A+ with that, with the fiber in it. And the fiberglass it's overkill. Your fiberglass, you have it mostly in the neutral axis, the center of the pad. For that to even become active, you're going to have to get a lot of deflection in your pad. And it helps, but it does help bond the pad together for expansion and contraction, that does help. I think you're in Wisconsin. That does keep this pad help it interlock, which is great. Which means you won't get the expansion like other people might get that do not use it. But your fiber is so intense. Your fiber is great. I'm not sure which strands you're using, long strands, short strands, and how much per yard. But the fiber is outstanding to use. The fiberglass, because of the loading of no vehicles, is overkill, except for expansion. You've got this extra redundancy. If they paid for it, then that's awesome. If you're throwing it in, it's not awesome.
And then the stamp came out clean because it was nothing but good butter at the surface.
Okay, that's what he says, good butter. Now, let me teach you about the higher slump. You're using 4 or 5 slump, right? This is what your slump you're running at, right? So now, what happens if you go to a 5.5? You're going to get some bleed water up here. And bleed water, I want you to think of the water as all part of the mix, all right? The water and the stone, all part of the mix. Except for the water is displaced to the top. That's bleed water. It's not some magical thing going on. What's happening is the sand, the stone, the paste, all the aggregates weigh more than the water below. They don't float on the water below. They displace it down. They displace it. This falls down to that small degree. And then the bleed water comes up. All right, your bleed water comes up. You're worried about rain in this case. But that displacement also with that comes with, you get your nice little, your protection for your early set times. But you like to do early set times. But I just wanted to talk to you about that extra slump that you can add and let the bleed water run off. It will help you with it's a lot less work. Other thing I would suggest is that you look into super plasticizers. Now, they got a learning curve. So you would order, since you like 4 or 5, you would still keep it a 4 or 5 slump. All right, but then you would say, starting off, whatever slump you normally think you would order, 4 or 5, you say, I want a 4 or 5 slump. And then you say, but I want you to add super plasticizer to give me a 6.5. All right, do 6.5. Now you're going to be very confused by this. Very confused. You still got a 4.5, but when they do the 6.5, sometimes they get it wrong and they give you a 7, and it's scary. It comes out flowing and it's silky. It's a lot of it, right? It just flows so easy, and you clearly think you really think you're dealing with a 6.5 slump. But you're dealing with a chemical process. Super plasticizers is the way they work. I got a video on that. Trust me, you really only have a 4 and 5 amount of water in there. They do not add water. They add a chemical or powder that just makes a chemical reaction that allows this fluidness to take place. So you are now going to get you're going to have to wait. So you ask the guy, the plant guy, hey, look, I got a 6.5. How much time does that buy me before it converts back? Ask him before it converts to a 4 to 5. This is your patience. You must have patience. So he might say it takes an hour. So as you place this, you may have to wait an hour before all of a sudden it starts behaving like a 4 to 5. You'll see it. If you get on it too soon, it'll be real pasty and pulley, and it's really a different animal when you're dealing with it with a super P on it. Just trust it. Place it. It's going to be so much easier. Then you have to wait. Just wait for it to flash, if you will, to get to your 4 to 5. That's what you're used to dealing with. And at your 4 to 5, just get on it and start finishing it like you guys like finishing at 4 to 5. You might better get on it when it's around a 6. You might better start, doing some edging and things like, you can do the edging and all that to learn the learning curve. But watch it flip. It's going to all of a sudden go to 0. It will be back to 4 to 5 like a light switch. But placement is going to be a beautiful cakewalk for you. It's going to change your life. Yes, you will pay a little more for it, but now you're not going to break any backs. Once you learn it, lock it in like you locked in your fibers. Now here's a problem with your fibers. When you order fibers and you're ordering this 4 and 5 slump, you really are killing yourself. Fibers with the water content 4 or 5, you're probably really down there around 2. You really got to jack your water up just using fiber alone because of the fiber. So you should try getting comfortable with at least a 6. Since you're down here, try ordering without Super P first. Just try a 6. All right, just flip your whole script and say, I'm ordering 6s. 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, unless you're doing your steps. But remember, fiber reduces your slump. So when you think you're getting a 4 or 5, when you're doing the fiber, you might be a 2.5. All right, this is why it looks, your 5 is so much rougher and tougher to deal with because of the fiber. So there's my tip to you. I said I would do a video, and you wrote me even saying you're looking forward to it. But someone else asked me too. So look, fiber, love it. Stay with it. But if you don't want to use the learning curve yet on the Super P, Super Plasticizers, then first go to up your water to a 6. All right, get out of this. And then you'll learn that maybe you can go 6.5 with the fiber. And you'll see your set times, you don't have to panic as much. And your bleed water will still be very, very low because the fibers, they reduce your slump terribly so. They take on water. With that said, you do pre-water. A lot of times I do see you pre-watering your surface the day before. Try watering it the day of, before you pour. No puddling water, just sprinkle your surface, your base, your stone, because a lot of that stone is heated, and it will suck your moisture out also out of your low slump, because you're dealing with low slump. It's a different beast. It will want to pull the water out of your low slump already and thicken it up. You don't want, this is why I'm saying you got these really low slumps you don't even know that you're dealing with. So wet it down. Now, Wisconsin, plastic. No, because of water, plastic is nice. It stops the moisture from coming up. But conversely, water that gets between your pad and your plastic can freeze. And if it comes around the edge, for example, this water slopes down, and if you had plastic poly there, it can get on top of that water and start swelling and put stress on your pad and maybe cause fracturing like that. So water coming down, get under there, say it gets back to here like that, underneath that pad, and then it swells. And you can get your fractured concrete as it tries to flip it over. But you have the reinforcement in there and the fiber to resist that, which is really great. Now, you're not using poly, but you should use poly inside. That's why you do a few inside jobs. There's no water that you're worrying about with that, but you're worried about the odor and things like that coming up from the base. Also, you don't have to worry about I want you to wet your base, and all of you guys do that. I want you to think of this is concrete, right? And when it goes in, all right, I'm going to show the base below this. All right, this is concrete. This is whatever slump you order. Let's say you order a 5, all right? You know what that looks like, the 5. But let's say this is your base now. And now your base is hot. It's hot. It's dry. And what's going to happen to this 5 when this 5 gets on top of that hot and dry base? It's going to suck the moisture from the stones, your bottom layer. So you're literally sacrificing your contact layer of, say, a 5-inch pad, 5.5, 6-inch pad. You're literally debonding, creating a debond issue here. And then this will behave differently here. But a lot of this will wick down until this becomes neutraled out. The hot and dry become the same saturation as what you're applying. I'm ending this video. Hopefully this is helpful. I'm going to put it on a couple channels. Watch it again to understand it.